Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise, for this exciting evening of motor racing here in the Simsport Racing International YouTube site, where basically it's a championship. Well, not basically, it is the championship decider at the Red Bull Ring. Championships are reasonably close. Only the silver class are theoretically and mathematically decided, with the championship going to Marcin Koi, but the rest of the classes, they are tight as ever, with both I'm not even going to pronounce that name, and Misha Melis in the hunt for the aims, and in the Pro Championship, wow, everything is out there to play for. Equator Baldy leads the championship on 67 points, though we haven't seen him on the practice servers yet, with Jordi Peters behind on 58 and Samuel von Liebenstein on 55. So if Baldy doesn't show up, then it will be a winner-takes-all situation between Jordi Peters and Samuel von Liebenstein if one of them can manage to win the race. Nick Vargas and Tess Fredrickson also with a small chance of an outside championship win, though they'll need a little bit of luck going their way as well. But what an evening of racing that we are looking forward to this time around. Of course, racing at the Red Bull Ring, a track that we have seen a few times before. Usually it always provides us with intense racing. It can be a bit hectic for the drivers though, as we have seen many times before. The traffic will usually become one of the main talking points around here. Short track lap time wise, long straights, not that many corners. This is one of those tracks where pit stops will be hugely important. When do you take it? It's all about taking it and not getting into traffic. Can the drivers calculate that? Do they have helping drivers helping them to figure out when to take the pits? Will you go a lap down to some drivers if you take the pits from a midfield position? All of that will have to wait just about half an hour to find out, or at least until we go racing here. But all of that we will be waiting to find out later on this evening. But yeah, Red Bull Ring. I think we have a track guide link somewhere in the archives here in the small shed. We do need some extension of this at some point, I do believe. But anyway, start-finish straight, where we obviously saw Pastor Maldonado do that crazy overtake quite a few years back, where he almost lost the car trying to get through turn 1, uphill corner. Very important to get right. You have a huge straight coming up just after a lot of runoff area, but you do have that yellow sausage curb that you don't want to touch. Turn 2, technically this small kink that we're coming up to, but turn 3 are where it's all going to happen. Lots of elevation change, biggest braking zone on the track, hard braking, and then you turn the car just over 90 degrees uphill. Big moves can happen here, but also big crashes that have been seen once or twice before in history around here, we must say. The third of the straights already, big straight coming into turn 4, good overtaking opportunity as well. Turn that tightens in the first part, or initial part of it, and then opens up before the run down into sector 2 and the more technical part of the track, with the double left-hander 6 and 7 going into now. It starts to go downhill here quite a lot. Satisfying to get right, but very, very horrible to get wrong, as there's that big gravel trap on the outside. Turn 7. Once again, important to get right. You can hook it on the inside. If you don't get this right, then you'll be very vulnerable coming into turn 9, turn 8. That's more kink. Turn 9 here at the end of the back straight, where we have the pit entry commitment line, I do believe, right here coming in from a very far side. Double right-hander, very, very high speed. This last one, you can gain a lot of time taking it just right, but getting it slightly wrong, you'll get the famous track limits around here. And do remember 3 track limits, that's okay. The 4th one, then you get the drive-through penalty. So do be looking out for that to the drivers out there. Can be difficult to manage that over an entire race on this track. 60-minute race this evening. Just a quick reminder of the format for the 60-minute races. 1 mandatory pit stop, and the drivers have to take the tires. They must take the tires. Tire stops are mandatory. So minimum 30 seconds of stationary time in the pits. I don't expect drivers to to not fuel when they're there anyway, so they might just be fueled for a halfway point. Baldy have now joined the servers, which means that he will be favorite for the championship coming in. So let's just look at the scenarios for the championship. In this case, he does have a 9-point lead, which means that it's not enough for Peters or Van Liebenstein to win and take the championship. But let's have a closer look in the standings. 9-point lead from 25. That means that if he secures let's see, that'll be boom, 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 boom. Why am I bad at math now? If he takes 4th, then he will be guaranteed the championship, does Baldy. So Baldy needs to finish 4th or higher to decide it himself. And that is a requirement then for Jordy Peters to win if Baldy finishes 3rd. Oh, well, sorry, if he finishes 5th. Then Baldy will still need to win the race. So yeah, something to look out for this evening. None of the drivers have had perfect seasons in the Pro Championship. Baldy are the closest one though. He did miss round 3, but besides that, then he have been quite unstoppable. Only 1 win though in the second race, but 2 second place finishes. That's what puts him on top. With Jordy Peters having a not so good race in round 3, where he finished only 16th in that one. In his Porsche, Van Liebenstein have been almost Mr. Consistent with the race win in round 1, then 3 4th places to follow up on that one. Do remember on that we do have the drop results included in these scores as we are talking here. In this championship, the drivers do get their worst result of the season scrapped from their total points tally, to make it a little bit more interesting, and the fact that you can have a bad race or you can get taken out once and still be in it for the championship. Fredriksson, who sits in 5th, he unfortunately his drop round was a no-show, did not start, but if he had competed that one, then he would be looking good for points with a 2nd and a 1st to his name, and of course the almost did last in round 1, but if that would have been the drop round he competed last time out and had a nice top 3, then he would definitely be in this championship fight for this final round. But yeah, I'm just speaking and speaking and speaking. Qualifying have started. As we do see some drivers out on track, perfect track conditions for racing. 23 degrees, slightly overcast, optimum racetrack. But this is the thing in qualifying, look at this traffic. There's a big part of the track with no cars on it at the minute, and it might be worth for some drivers who are in the middle of all of this traffic to just fall behind a little bit, trying to open some gaps between them. Nick Vargas, first driver out in qualifying as per usual almost. Runs the same qualifying strategy as I would usually do there, by getting on the servers early to get a pit box nearing the end of pit lane and then just going out as soon as qualifying starts, ensuring that you at least get 1 undisturbed lap out in front. But Vargas will open the qualifying session. Qualifying is where the drivers, they go out on track to set the fastest lap time possible in these 20 minutes of qualifying that we have around here, or something like that. And that will determine the grid, or at least the starting order for the race to follow. Vargas also, he was considered to be within champion, or he could have had championship aspirations early on in this season. He is still in there with a theoretical shot at the title. Currently sitting on 50 points, though he will need a little bit of help and luck from the racing guards if he can take this one home. But let's wait and see on board with Vargas through the final couple of corners. You can use a lot of the curbing around here without being too difficult, sliding a little bit there with the rear end as the car just revs up. Gets a slide on 127.8 the first time on the board. A lot of invalid laps to come behind, so it will be a while until another car puts a lap in there. Senatore there close to Vargas. Van Liebenstein not improving on Vargas' time either. Do expect qualifying to be super tight around here. Van der Kran on the board. Peters as well in 3rd. in the red and yellow Lion Speed Porsche. Does have a little bit of a resemblance to the old Flying Lizard Porsches of past. But with only Misha Melis showing up in the AM class, that will basically seal the deal. For the AM drivers, the 52 car will finally get to the top of a championship. A race number that I used to run a little bit way back when I started sim racing about 6 years ago. We actually talked about this just before we went live. It's 5 years since Chris and I met for the first time in this wonderful virtual world of... it says P in his front window. In this wonderful virtual world of racing. Good times, as time just flies past us. The shed is still the same, haven't gotten any bigger, but the people within it, they definitely have. So not a lot of room for guests anymore, unfortunately. Though we could probably squeeze a guy or two in here with us. It would be a little bit cramped, but we like it. Come on, come on. Senatore goes to provisional pole, but still 15 minutes to go though in qualifying. Times are still tight and a lot of drivers yet to put a time on the board, including Caternan, who we will expect to go somewhat high up in the order. Garcia came in there on 7th. Very good stable season from Wolf Garcia, who's catching a little bit of a toe from his Mode 11 teammate of Bas van Melis, just up ahead of him. Very stable season for Garcia, indeed. 3 9th places and a 20th are what he's scored for. So with races without incidents, then he haven't finished worse than 9th so far. He might be Mr. 9th. Which is of course if you take the 5 plus 5 and then take the 1 race off, then it would be 9. There's a lot of math involved in the number. I guess that's a little bit of an Easter egg. Senatore bins the car on a qualifying lap and goes back to the pits. Of course, you can go straight out to the track again. On simulators like this, you don't have to drive all the way into to pit lane after having finished a flying lap. You just need enough fuel to cross the line, then you can RTG back to the garage. Something that I wish they would take out of the games. That would make qualifying way more interesting strategy-wise. And as we all know that Chris is only cheering for the winners of the championships, being known in the YouTube chat. I cheer for all of the drivers, just putting it out there. Quattro Baldi here, championship leader, set in 5th at the minute in his Aston Martin. In the Lucky 13. But if the race would finish as it currently stands here in qualifying, then Baldi would take the championship. Very tight though to Peters, but it would still be Baldi, so he doesn't have to risk too much in this race. He just have to keep it clean. But we all know once you go racing, you forget all about championships and stuff like that. Then it's all about getting the result. And that's something I think we'll see come out today. Safe driving will not be on the table for any of these guys. But let's see. Oh, that's a little bit wide there from Baldi, so I don't think that will pop him further up the boards. Nope. Pulls over to go back to the garage, take a little bit of fuel and a fresh set of tires. He might be doing the free run strategy here in qualifying. Different from driver to driver, how many runs you want to do in qualifying, how much fuel you take on each run. Some drivers will just fuel up and go out for the entirety of the session, others they will split into 2 halves. And I would say quite a few of the drivers, they will more likely do a free run strategy where you take 3 full sets of tires during this session and fuel the car to a smaller amount than the drivers who will be going halfway or full session. Melis still leading the AM class here on the track this evening. Actually, pretty reasonable time from Michamelis this time out. We have seen the AM drivers be quite a bit off pace this season, but doesn't seem to be the case here at the Red Bull Ring. At least reasonably close to the back end of the field. But again, for Michamelis, we should basically just have to finish this race, and then it will be a secured championship. Or we'll complete a lap at this point. With no other AM drivers, then one lap would be sufficient, I think, to take the punch. Don't know exactly how that works if you retire from the races, but I do think you still get scored. Across the line, starting a new flying lap. That does Michamelis with 10.5 minutes to go. There might still be a little bit of time to find in the McLaren. Yes, Damon Hill will be the driver winning this race, definitely. If that's what we're talking about in the YouTube chat. Von Liebenstein currently set in 4th. Baldy still 7th, or dropped to 7th. He will have to pick up the pace at some point here in qualifying. Trying to get a few places as we would expect of him. Wolf Garcia set in his traditional 9th. The Honda might actually be a rather strong car around here. I don't see anything on this track that the Honda should be particularly bad at, which is usually the case where you can find a few weak spots of that car on the racing circuits. But look at the gap between top 3. Cardinal getting in there as well. And both Cardinal, Peters and Senatore within a 10th of a second. For Liebenstein just on the outside of that 10th to a provisional pole. But let's see after this lap, it does look good so far. For Samuel von Liebenstein, uses all of the track available. Plus that little bit extra, but track limits are somewhat lenient in a lot of the corners around here. Start, finish straight, and across the line he goes. No improvement though, not the quickest of laps. Almost exactly a second slower than his best so far. Maybe that was just the warm-up lap for the Honda driver. Yes, we don't have the Danny Hamlin livery on this race, unfortunately, Mr. Wouter. Where are they actually, the DDS guys? None of them this time around, maybe? Doesn't look like it. Anyway, Ottelman in 13th. Coming down the third straight, he does have some tow from the cars ahead, but whether or not that traffic will become a little bit of an issue for him here through the twistier parts of the track, we'll have to wait and see. Doesn't look to be too much of an issue. It's all about the tow. That's von Liebenstein that's parked on the side of the track. Of going in to fit a fresh set of tires. Yeah, this might actually be a reasonably good distance that Ottelman have kept here. These GT3 cars are not too sensitive to dirty air in the corners. That's of course somewhat not as extreme as in Formula 1. But they do get a very nice tow if you're somewhat close to the drivers ahead of you. Ottelman across the line. Again, no improvement this time around. DDS McLarens are in the garage. EGR valve issues. I really wish that people could hear you sometimes, Chris. Sounds more like a thing. Nevertheless, Vargas on a good lap. Through sector 1 already. Von Liebenstein behind, who have just come out the pits warming up the tires. He might actually just try and push it on the outlap, staying with Nick Vargas. Though if I'm not mistaken too much, then Nick will do this lap, go to the pits and put on a fresh set of tires as well to try for a final run. Top 17, all within a second at the minute. As we say, that Cardinal goes provisional pole, which bumps it down to the top 13 that goes within the second, but the smallest of improvements will gain you a lot of time at this point. Let's see what Vargas can do across the line. He goes... no improvements from him. Yeah, there was an improvement, but no positions though. Very rare in this field. But he haven't pulled over to go into the pits for a fresh set of tires. He continues to plow on. Nicholas Carlson, the Swedish driver. Set in 13th. Coming around in his BMW. Best placed BMW currently. One of the few BMWs in the championship. I think it might be just Carlson and Coy that have chosen the M4 as a weapon of choice. As Carlson goes across the line and jumps up into 11th position. Just outside of the top 10 there for Nicholas Carlson. He does have enough time to go for one more run. As he quickly does, as he's leaving the pit lane immediately after getting in there. Ecuador Baldy. Disappointment so far in the position-wise in qualifying, but let's see if he improves this time around. Focus on him is usually a good sign when it comes to lap times. He's following Wolf Garcia ahead, who pulls away from Baldy. Might have given some slipstream to Baldy down the straights. But let's see, as he's flying through Sector 2. 2 more corners to navigate for Mr. Baldy. He still have enough time for 3 laps if he's fueled for it. Do remember, when the timer hits 0, you are allowed to finish your lap that you're on. Ecuador Baldy across the line. He goes and stays in 7th, just under a 10th slower than his provisional best time. And that is definitely not going to be an improvement, and that was way too wide. And in fact, a lot of people in the background also running wide there. I think a lot of the drivers there may be a little bit in shock of the very slow or almost stationary Ferrari, but nevertheless they still have a shot in the cars if they are fueled for it. The drivers in pits, they could potentially still go out and start a lap. Not entirely sure if they will, because not a lot of movement in pit lane. The 55 car is moving. That's Wolf Garcia that's coming off the pits, I think. Though he just went back in there, so hard to say really. But I think the rest of them might just be stationary and preparing mentally for the race. As Peters just have to navigate 2 more corners before he will start his penultimate run in qualifying. Again, if the fuel allows him to it. Big run up to the start-finish straight, carrying as much speed as possible when you start a lap. That will carry into the next one. No, that was actually a flying lap. That was a flying lap that goes to be his best time. 3rd place, that will be maximum for Peters. Now he could potentially actually go out again if he's very quick on the turnaround. Doesn't look like it. Oof, AIM drivers have joined now. That is... that means that Misha Melis is no longer guaranteed the championship, with championship leader Ukunululu is that guy in 29th on the server. Sander Vale comes to the line from 24th, stays 24th. One of the Mode 11 Ferraris, but no livery on that one though. Gabriel Ferro have shown strong performances this season. Across the line he goes 6th position. operationally he can do this one and one more. Actually, the drivers that start a lap now, they will be on their final attempts. So I think Carlson will be the first driver to see the checkered flag. I think he didn't manage to squeeze by. This time, which also means that Wolf Garcia are done if he's on an invalid lap. He does show up as blue on the minimap. That's usually a sign that he is invalid. But Baldy, one more corner to go. And another lap if he have the time for it, or will fuel for it. Let's see as he comes across the line from 8th position. He jumps to 7th only. Does look like that he's carrying speed into turn 1, so he will be going again. We have seen Baldy be better in race situations than qualifying so far this season as well, so that might just be the thing here, that he's not the strongest in the qualifying sessions. As time is slowly running out, less than 30 seconds to start a lap for the drivers. Carlson will very likely be the first to see the flag. 2 corners to go. Oh yeah, he'll definitely see the flag now. If I ever saw an invalid lap, that was it. And time have run out, so now officially everyone will be on their final laps. Garcia gets the flag. The 157 gets the flag. That's further down the running order. Sinatra will be the first of the top drivers. He invalidates there. That's Nick Vargas. That will be next driver to come across. Let's see if he can improve following Tish Fredrickson though. Vargas goes 5th, or will stays in 5th. Fredrickson through the final corner. Will it be enough to improve from 11th position? Not super strong qualifying this time around for Fredrickson so far. Jumps to 9th. Pushes Garcia out of the top 10 in qualifying. And I think that's the 21 is still out there on a lap. That's Faro. Faro are the only man still out there on track on a time lap, and he pulls off. Which means that we are done with qualifying this season. And yeah, what a session we had. A few minutes and then we'll go live racing, which means that we'll take a very short commercial break here in the Simsport Racing International YouTube channel. Or at least pretend commercial break. We are back as the drivers have rolled out on the formation lap. Cardinal takes the pole in this evening race. He'll be joined by Senatore on row 1, with Peters and von Liebenstein lining up right behind. Vargas and Ferro takes row 3, while Baldi and Sayani in row 4. 5 will be Fredriksson and Fiore, and that will be the top 10 of this race. Last chance to check the strategies and the MFDs, getting everything set up for the race, getting very important heat into the tires and brakes before turn 1. That could be important for these drivers, as turn 1 on this track is very tricky, with the reasonable high speed that you're entering with, and not the slowest of turn 1s, we must say. We have seen big crashes there before, with people trying to launch it up the inside, where there usually will be room, but no guarantees that once you reach the apex that a gap will open up for you there. The hero line on the outside have been an option beforehand on this track as well, if you can avoid the crashes flowing out to you. So that will be interesting to see what the drivers end up doing once we get going with this race in just 2.5 corners time for this final race of the season. Ominous lighting over the track. Somewhat poetical, signaling the end of a race, with the darkness luring around the track as they line up side by side in NASCAR formation to get this one started. Just cruising around the final 2 corners, which also means that this will be the final time this season that we get to say, ladies and gentlemen, we are shortly about to be racing! Super start from Jordy Peters. Looks left and right, making it free wide almost into turn 1. Slight contact between Peters and Cardinal. Peters goes up into second there through turn 1. Cardinal running very wide there, which means that Peters might actually get a run and a chance into turn number 3 around this track. A few cars going off early run, but everyone seems to have survived reasonably. I think Bas van Met is one of the drivers involved in that one. Into turn 3 we go, still with Cardinal in front of us, and Peters goes in behind. 2 wide further down, which also means that a gap have formed. Nick Vargas seems to be fending off P3, and is that Baldi already who have jumped up? No, that's Sinatra in the black Aston we see. Side by side with Vargas into turn 4. Liebenstein lurking in the background. Senatore being squeezed a little bit wide there, reasonable fighting, which means that von Liebenstein gets the opportunity on the outside of 5. Doesn't make it stick though. Hard place to make the overtake on the outside, especially this early in the race where all the drivers have fresh tires. But after the first lap, still seems that it's super tight, and Baldi all the way down into 7th. Peters will need this overtake, I think, to take the championship, as he runs very wide early on. Probably taking close to a track, but there might not be a warning for it though as we go on to the start-finish straight. But this does mean that Cardinal gets a reasonable gap already over a second, and if Peters gets involved in fighting with Vargas and Senatore, then Cardinal can maybe run away in the front and become very hard to chase down. But tons and tons of drivers still within that wonderful tow. Okulogulu's leading the AM class. He will just by virtue of starting this race probably become a Chao. He will be champion of the AIMS though. Senatore outside of Nick Vargas. Vargas forced to the inside line, which just means that he's very vulnerable into turn 4. Having to go super defensive now, Nick Vargas. Can Senatore do it on the outside? Looks like it. He's trying at least. Side by side contact on the apex of the corner though. and Vargas goes through and keeps position. Senatore drops behind von Liebenstein, which means that it is Senatore and Baldy now in that will be 5th and 6th position in the twin Aston Martins. One car already out of this, it's the 87, it looks like, that have gone to the pits and probably retired. At least it's very, very likely at this point. It's Dimitri Willems, who seems to have parked the car already, as they still fight through. These guys still very, very tight, but again, short track and a lot of straights, so if you can make the gap, then it's all about keeping it, because breaking that toe, that is super, super important in a race like this. Because obviously it's hard to break it around here with all the straights, so as soon as you can, then that will give you the advantage. Just trying to look exactly with 9 points between them. Ooh, that's Steve Parker, who have gone around in turn 1 with a few other drivers. 9 points between, and what's that? That's Gracioli as well, who have gone very, very far down to the back end of things. Back up to the front racing, still on the lines. Baldy sitting in 6th, which will secure him 11 points. And look at that, if he only takes 6th and Peters finishes where he is, then Peters will actually take the championship by a couple of points. So Baldy will have to make some moves to get this one secured. So he will be looking at the rear end of the other Aston Martin, thinking about that while he's under severe pressure from Ferro in the Ferrari behind. Doesn't seem that the Aston of Baldy is running too well around here. Might be a setup thing. But Ferro definitely looked super close just half a second ago, just a few seconds ago down the penultimate corner. Lost maybe a little bit by staying too close, not wanting to risk the contact by virtue of breaking at different points into the different corners. So he's dropped a little bit behind and well, he is technically, I would say, still in battle range, but just outside of where it gets really dangerous. NASCAR formation here, 4 drivers side by side. It looks like that's Baki, that's Alderman, Ferro it looks like, and Fredriksson as well. Fredriksson leading this, but Alderman under pressure from Baki. Baki looking for it on the outside. Alderman having to go defensive. Baki actually seems to have it done on the outside. No, he runs wide on the exit there. Very strong attempt from Baki, but this means that Baki will get pressured by Gavioli from behind. At least means that Gavioli will catch up to Baki after that small detour off the track, as the car just goes flying over the camera. Coming around this time, but it doesn't look like interesting other stories to follow would be Koya. I think he was involved in that crash that we saw not that long ago. What happened to 44 losing the positions? He was spun around, not I think a lap or 2 ago in turn 1. Something happened there, definitely. I think Koya was involved maybe in that as well, as he's also dropped way out of contention, which means that he's very unlikely to do the clean sweep of the silver class now. Baki again with the fail. That's Ottelman that goes for a spin down the sausage, it looks like. Which means that Baki goes through, and Gavioli right behind on the attack already, almost on Baki coming into turn 3. Not quite close enough, then it would have to be a dive off the century. But doesn't look like a Cageman behind. No, Koya is still there in 16th. Koya then wasn't involved in that early instant stuff there, but Koya in 16th, it's only Gavioli ahead of him in class actually for the clean sweep to be a possibility. Any chance of seeing what happened to the 44 in the instant up there? We'll have to ask in the background. Might be working on it already. But Gavioli looks to be a little bit in that secure spot now. It seems every time he gets close to Baki, Baki just manages to break away again. They seem to be strong at different parts of the track, the two Ferrari drivers. But Cageman is still giving the chase behind. He's tightly followed by Martin Coy and the ominous BMW as they run through the penultimate corner once again. Interesting start to the race, at least here in the secondary positions. Lots of close battling up and down the field. Gavioli, I don't know. No, that's actually almost a perfect turn one from Gavioli that puts him right back in with Baki, who didn't seem to be getting the most out of turn one this time around. That puts him under the pressure once again. As they head through turn three. But Cageman closing the gap to Gavioli, it looks like, as well. And if Gavioli continues to close the gap up to Baki, then it might end up being a four-way battle with Coy in the rear end of that as well. Meanwhile, Baki not too far behind Carlson in 12th. Also, speaking of consistency, Garcia back up into to 9th place. Mr. 9th, he might be called after this one. Vargas putting the challenge on Jordi Peters for 2nd. Meanwhile, Cardinal really run away with it in the front, but also unpressured since turn 1, basically. But Vargas have caught up to Jordi Peters for the final spot of the podium. Peters, he will need that P2 to secure it, I think, to Baldy. So if Vargas goes through, then it could be the dreams of Peters that disappears. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, then the dreams of Peters will disappear indeed. So yeah, everything to play for Peters here. Same goes for Vargas, as he's also in a bit of a championship fight. Just not for the overall lead. He's 5 points behind von Liebenstein and just 3 ahead of Fredriksson. But Fredriksson quite far down the order this time around. Same goes for Carlson, who'd be right behind in that battle. But von Liebenstein in 4th, also under pressure from the Italian trio of Senatore, Baldi and Ferro. As we can see those 4 just looming in the background. Replay action. This is Steve Parker. Well, spinning ahead of him, and then he gets pushed around after a while, trying to avoid the shenanigans ahead of him. And yeah, just unfortunate time loss there from Parker. I feel like that has been the story of the Drift King this season, that he haven't been involved in the instances per se, but he has been avoiding them and losing time on that. On the 14 lets Parker through again. But Parker will be running around with a little bit of damage on that calf, that I would assume. Meanwhile, Vargas all the way up to Jordi Peters as they go into the tighter section of the track. Though on a lot of other tracks, this would definitely be considered a tight part of the track. But not as many overtaking opportunities here. He will just have to tuck in behind and presumably wait for turn 1, 3 or 4. To get the move done, as that would be the best places on the track to do so. But at this point, with 3 seconds from Peters up to Cardinal, don't think Vargas is in too much of a hurry there, as Peters runs wide, having to lift off the throttle and then side by side through the final corner. Definitely big time loss, which means that von Liebenstein might actually be closing the gap quite heavily now to them. Almost a 6-car battle now for 2nd, all the way from Peters and down to Ferro. Side by side, Vargas and Peters. As Vargas does go through, and takes P2 away from Jordi Peters. But what will Vargas do? Will he go defensive, or what will he do through turn 3? No, they all stay in line. Peters trying to get the better exit, and looks like he actually succeeded in that. Super tight together down towards turn 4. Peters going to the outside of Vargas. Vargas staying defensive. But it chooses to stay on the apex of the corner, leaving Peters nowhere to go with the attacking move. But look at that, with all that battling, that means that Van Diemenstein, Senatore, Baldi and Ferro, they have definitely caught up to the back end of this battle. And I would consider them to be in it now. Also, the biggest group of cars on track would be the one that we're seeing here in frame for P2 currently, but they lose about 2 seconds or so to Cardinal in the last lap. But now's the thing for Nick Vargas. He have warmed up. We have seen him getting stronger and stronger over the races all season long. Can he pull the gap to Peters? Or will Peters just or can Peters manage to just stay with him in the tow? Oh, definitely can, as Peters goes for a big moment there through turn 1. Losing the rear end. Van Diemenstein also having to lift off there to avoid anything, which means Senatore gets the move done on Van Diemenstein even before turn 3, and Peters drops all the way behind Baldi. So Vargas in a little bit of a no man's land. Meanwhile, Peters back on the move on Senatore, who did give it back up to Van Diemenstein after... no, that's Baldi. That's Baldi and Peters. The two black Aston Martins confuses me. But yeah, that's Baldi and Peters that went side by side into turn 4. Still in it. This will be enough for Baldi to mathematically secure without any interference from anywhere else. I think he would actually need 4th. Will be 4th or 5th for him to get it done. But he is ahead of Peters at this point, which is the important thing for Eduardo Baldi. He will need 4th to mathematically secure it for himself, but a 5th will be enough as long as Peters doesn't win the race. This is two main championship rivals close together on track once again. Though this might end up being a battle of honors at the end of the day. Peters on the switchback. Looks like he actually pulls it off and somehow also got a better exit there than Van Diemenstein, as well as he's closing the gap there. A super move from Jordi Peters that puts him into 5th position and sends Baldi back down into 6th. Will Baldi have an answer to that attack though? Probably not through these corners. We did see Peters with 2 uncharacteristic mistakes so far this race. Probably indicating that Peters is driving at the very edge of his capabilities, pushing it, giving it everything that he have. The mistake here through 9 earlier in the race, and then the big one in turn 1 where he got onto the sausage. Baldi just going that little bit wide, touching the grass. Not the most serious of things to do. That's Matt Ailing that's gone around. And into the garage he goes. Ailing out of this one. Vivard gone to 23rd position. Started last and gone up to 23rd. Not too surprising that he is making up ground, but still quite a way off the AM leader in his BMW. I actually don't think. I think Vivard was one of the drivers who managed to join in after qualifying started. Dickman, the only driver who have taken the pit stop so far. Meanwhile, Peters in the almost to the back end of Van Liebenstein again. Oh, Van Liebenstein losing it this time. Also driving on the edges. That definitely puts Van Liebenstein out of the challenge for potential championship. He will have too much ground to make up now, and the racing guards interference will also probably be too much from this point on from him. But a big moment there from Van Liebenstein that drops it from fourth position in the race. That puts him way down the order. Though that did promote Mr. Ninth to P8 in the race. As Leonardo Wolf Garcia applying the pressure to Sayani in the third of the Black Astons. Right behind these guys we do see Fredriksson and Fiore also super close together on track. Van Liebenstein dropping all the way down to 13th position, and all of this behind Nicholas Carlsen and Barkey. "20 minutes into this one." As we can see how aggressive it looks like Sayani are on the steering inputs there, as how that car almost snaps as he pulls out to get the widest possible entry to the corners. That could put a little bit of a strain on the tires, though this track I wouldn't be too concerned about tire wear. But look how aggressive he pulls out onto the curbs whenever he goes onto those corner entries there to open up the corners. That does mean that Garcia usually gets a little bit more smooth inputs into it, and at some point that might go wrong for Sayani, but we do expect that he knows what he's doing. Through turn 1 we go a little bit too close there for Garcia. He will have to drop a little bit of distance through turn 1, as he was way too close on the apex to try and get the run. In the blue and white Mode 11 car. Look at that, Fredriksson under severe pressure from Fiore. In the 83 Fiore have had some good races. He tries for a big launch there. Fredriksson just moves out of the way to avoid the contact. I think Fiore was maybe he braked a little bit too late for that one, because Fredriksson could potentially have turned in there and taken the corner away, but that would have caused contact. Fredriksson showing why he's such a highly rated driver. Foresees incidents coming and gets out of the way, avoiding them completely. But now the question begs if Fredriksson can pull this one back. If you have an answer to Fiore's overtaking move there into turn 4. We do know the Mercedes have a little bit of an advantage on curbs. It's very strong when it comes to curve riding, though there are not a lot of curbs on this track where it actually gives that big upside as it does on tracks like Imola. Through turn 1, little bit of a tiny slide there from Fredriksson, but he is positioned nicely for the toe. Probably not close enough to get it done into turn 3, but turn 4, if he gets a good exit of 3, could be an option for Fredriksson as they go through 3 now. Fredriksson much better there on the exit, though. It did look like that he had to lift off on the very end of the exit. That gives Fiore a little bit of distance down to the Norwegian driver. Interesting to see which car that Fredriksson will be picking up next season. He have been swapping around quite a bit, getting to know a lot of cars here on ACC with Fredriksson behind the wheel. Meanwhile, Van Liebenstein have caught up to Nicholas Carlsen, the Dutchman and the Swede. Though nothing sweet about that. Van Liebenstein, he might have some lightly scrubbed tires or grained tires after his spin. Does look like that he's carrying a little bit more speed through the corners than Nicholas Carlsen. are at the minute. Not the best place to be stuck behind then, because we're going into the final 2 corners on the track. No real overtaking opportunity here without mistakes involved from the other drivers. And staying close are a little bit different in the very final corner around here. Very, very equal lines, but look at the speed that Van Liebenstein is capable to carry through. He might get close enough to try something into turn 3, but he stays behind. He'll go for it into 4 if he will try for it this lap. It's all about the exit then, but not quite there from Van Liebenstein. Can't seem to get the move done. He might just be scouting out Carlson's driving to see where he potentially could go for it, as we are getting to the point where drivers could start to try the undercut strategy. But you have to think about when you go into the pits here, will you get out into the traffic? That's a big, big question around here. There are some pretty good gaps on the track between Van Mellis and Ugunululu, for example, and then again after the 14 car and down to the 52 of Misha Melis. As we do see, I think that's Garcia that looks for pit lane, and the 1 car ahead of him as well. Garcia tries for 10th. I think he is in a position where he's definitely not going to be lapped by pitting at this point, so no blue flags for him. That's Sayani as well coming into the pits. Meanwhile, up with Jordi Peters and Senatore. The big battle there in an Italian Aston sandwich. Peters finds himself with Baldy right behind. Peters with the slightly better exit there. He could try for it into 4. Chucking into the slipstream, waiting. Will he dive out of it? He tries it left side, right side. Goes for it on the inside. Does he get it stopped? Doesn't look like it. The switchback will be on for Senatore, and it is. Peters just goes slightly too wide there in the attack move, but good challenge from Jordi Peters. Still looks like, whoa, that is as close as you want to get to another car. You couldn't put a paper between them there without the paper getting touched. That's how close that was to contact. But that also means that that Baldy and Ferro also gets tied up behind Jordi Peters. Baldy might be doing a big brain move at this point and not trying to push too hard for any kinds of overtakes on Jordi Peters. You do know that Peters will need the win if it stays like this, or well, he will need the win basically to take the championship anyway. But he only needs 9 points, of course, but that's still quite far. Fiore into the pits. How far will he drop after the pit stop round? Left side, right side. Baldy does look forward. Maybe I was speaking too early about the big brain move and just maintaining the position. Might be looking for the racing. We did talk about this just before the race, that once you get behind the wheel of these cars, you do just want to go racing. They are so inviting to go racing with these GT3 cars. You can really push them a lot. And the thing is, if you start to drive safe, then you might actually be driving more unsafe than usual, because if you're not pushing the car to the maximum, then it takes quite a bit more concentration to keep it there, because once you push it, then it's very automatic that you go into a concentration mode. This is Koy and Van der Kran. Koy up into 14th. Do you remember people have pitted before him? That's Van der Kran with the big move into 4. Strong move there from the Dutchman. Oh well, the Dutch wars, it looks like. Van der Kran and that are almost iconic at this point. Red Ferrari. Have been racing that for a long time. Jordi Peters into the pit lane he goes. Maybe it's a good thing to try and get out of that traffic and get a clean lap in to try and overtake Senatore that way. Meanwhile, this is Ferro and Baldy lining up close together. That's is that the 83 that's gone around just ahead of these drivers? He is moving again. but a car in trouble. A few other drivers also coming to the pits for Liemstein and Fredriksen as well. For Liemstein, that might be due to the extra tire wear that he got early on. Same thing for Peters, though he didn't go sideways for too long. I don't think that would be too damaging for the tires, but potentially some extra wear, or at least additional wear on those tires for Peters after the slide in turn 1. I tell you what, the gap between Cardinal and Vargas have been very, very consistent for the last 8 laps or so. If Vargas wasn't starting so far down and couldn't get... Ooh, that's a car that's gone around on pit row, it looked like, causing time loss there from a Faro, and is that a Barky Band? That's a Dickman who have gone around in pit lane. A little bit of a tricky pit lane, I must say as well, so no two big surprises, moving very, very slowly there. Oh, big damage on Dickman's car. That might be the reason. The box kill function on top, I think that's the button that they will have to push when coming into the pits to turn off the engine on this car. Again, Chris, if people could hear you, you would be comedy gold. That's Steve Parker that's gone around again. But yes, that is a measurement of if you push that button, then you have to start boxing with others and killing them in the infight. Yes, Chris, that is exactly what it means. I do wish that we had people running the Jaguar so we could have a live tweet meter going. But maybe we can bother Fredriksen introducing that next season. Hint, hint, Mr. Fredriksen, we would love to see that. Speaking of Fredriksen, after the pit round, he is right up behind Wolf Garcia, and that's Sayani as well. This is a battle for position between 3 drivers who have taken their pit stops. Fredriksen on the move on Wolf Garcia. On the outside, looks like that he does pull it off. Now it's all about traction out of the corner. He does make it through. But vulnerable into turn 4 he will be. But again, it would be a little bit of a brave move from Garcia to go for it. But you never know. No, not quite there. Gavioli goes into the pits as well. Van der Kran also on pit row. I would be expecting basically everyone to come in now as we have reached the halfway part or point of the race. This would be the optimal time to take the pit stop and get that done. So pit lane is getting busy. Koi as well, I think I saw into the pits for a brief moment. Baldi as well, but he's leaving pits as we're speaking. Interesting where Baldi will come out in relation to Jordi Peters. Peters with big gap to Faro, 4 seconds after the pits in that fight. Fredriksen still giving the chase to Sayani. A question for YouTube: any specific drivers that you would like to see out there while we have the chance to just get out the final race of the season? Vargas comes into the pits. This could be decisive as well. Good pit lane frame would be very important. Carlson chooses to stay out. Same for Cardinal. I don't think that's the best idea for Cardinal. I think if I was him, I would take the pit stop both to cover the other drivers off. But again, those that are giving chase will have the advantage of fresher tires. So that could end up being a decisive factor. But Carlson all the way up into second. Though he does owe us the pit stop. That's Bas van Melis directly ahead of him, who have saved the pit stop, who will be getting the blue flags. And that's one of the things with the pit stops around here. Well, he might just be outside of the blue flag range, but you have to consider that when you go into the pits, that you don't fall into to the blue flag group or the leading group that will give you those flags. because then you will have to pull out of the way. For the first time we actually see Bas in this race in the very, very nice Mustang, the Mode 11 orange and black car. Those exhausts on that Mustang glowing all red on the side, almost looks like a old school neon lighting underneath the car. I think in modern days people would just put LED strips down there, not having neon pipes running, but look at that beauty. That's what I call an exhaust system. Carlson staying out, which means that Bas will definitely be receiving those blue flags at this point. Probably pulling out the way, coming into 3, I would think, or into 4 maybe, for the experienced driver. Peters actually getting a 3-second gap to Baldy after the pits, so the undercut really paid off there, and Senatore with a horrendous pit stop, it seems like, who have dropped behind Farrow, and 4-second gap up to Farrow. He might have had some damage or getting stuck behind a slow moving car coming into the pits. Could be the reasoning there, but he definitely dropped quite a lot. Gap between Vargas and Peters, 4.9 was 4 before the pits, but with natural pace difference, it seems like they had similar pit stops. Pace-wise there, Cardinal goes into the pits from the lead of the race. In his Mustang, the 104 Mustang. AM leader and soon to be crowned champion. Ukunogul, yes, that guy, have gone into the pits as well. Actually a pretty good pit box he got there nearing the end of pit row. Van der Kran on the attack once again, this time on Fiore. He did have that spin earlier. We did see the yellow flags. It does look like there's some damage on the front of Fiore's car. Meanwhile, Parker have gone off again. But they have gone back, moving Van der Kran half looking for a move that at least is showing himself in the mirrors of Fiore, indicating that he is there and he wants to get this done. But I don't think Fiore will let this one go without a fight. 24 minutes to go in this race. Ferrari on Ferrari. Actually quite a few Ferraris position-wise close to each other there, from 14th and down to 19th. Fiore and Vargas, or it's not Fiore, Farrow and Vargas might be the only Ferraris not in this group on track. This time Van der Kran, if Fiore does have damage on that car, then Van der Kran, he will very likely get him within the next 3 corners. He looks for it into turn 1. Pulls out of that one. It is risky going for it there. But that does mean that Fiore did leave the room there and forced him on a wider line. So a better run from Van der Kran into 3. Already passed before the braking, so don't think Fiore will go it. Yes, he does take it into turn 3 side by side. Fiore and Van der Kran still side by side. With who of these drivers have set the cars up with the least amount of downforce? Does look like Van der Kran does have the advantage here. But outside through 4, not the easiest place to do so. You often just end up getting squeezed, but Fiore does a good job there of leaving the room to Van der Kran. This is wonderful racing between 2 Ferrari drivers. This time though, Van der Kran does get it done. Or does he switch back? Half on, now it's on for Fiore. Does he go? They're still side by side. He puts his nose in there, but now it's it looks to be done and dusted for Van der Kran. If he can pull away, that will be huge for him, as Fiore looks to be coming into the pits to get that damage fixed on the car. No more fun and games out on track for him. Cageman and Koi also having their pit stops done. 15th there, 11th from Van Liebenstein after the pit round. Still Carlson out there yet to pit. That will, oh, he comes in now. I think this will, might be tied with Van Liebenstein, but Garcia, I think, will get his 9th place back. Though he's super close to Sayani as we're speaking, so he might be challenging for that. Would be a fun storyline if he ends up finishing in 9th. But he might be out there to prove that he is better than a P9. Currently 10th. But yeah, Carlson getting those glory laps in from the lead of the race. It looks good on the stats, so you can say that you have been leading an SSRI race. And they are running up. They should be passing Carlson. Yeah, they just passed Carlson down the pit lane. Car 2 in that group coming out. It will actually be pretty close-ish. Close-ish and ish. It will be within a few seconds between Van Liebenstein and Carlson. Behind, but a 9th now for Wolf Garcia. And Coy 4 seconds behind Gavioli. That would be for the clean sweep of the semi-pro class or the silver class, however you like to call them. Row 4 Garcia just they seem to be so equally paced, but just doesn't look like Garcia can get close enough to Sayani to be actually threatening for the position. As they are running through the final couple of corners on the lap, 2 more to go. But 20 minutes still left of this race. So plenty of opportunities still for Garcia. See, he might actually have hit that nice just the camera angle that gets a little bit tricky there. 20 minutes to go for Garcia to get this move done. And get himself up into a season high 8th. Fredriksen also not that far ahead, so if he gets it done, then he could potentially try to challenge for even further of even greater positions in 7th from Fredriksen. Oh, look at that gap after the pit stops between 2 leaders down to 1.8 seconds. Cardinal not with the grace of pit stops. There could also have been traffic afterwards that have interfered a little bit there, but the gap have come right down between the 2 drivers in the front of the field. I wonder if there might have been a mistake from a Cardinal at some point. There surely must have been something, because he dropped about 2 seconds. Could also just have been a little bit on a pit lane entry or exit where Cardinal chose to be a little bit safer, but yeah, gap 2.1 over the line. If Vargas can find a little bit of something in that Ferrari, then he might come up to Cardinal. It is not over yet for the race win here at the Red Bull Ring, as the darkness really have come over the track. Van Liebenstein heavy on the attacks now on Nicholas Carlson. Start finish straight we go. Better exit from Van Liebenstein. Carlson does have to go defensive, and into the marbles they go. Van Liebenstein going wider. He will get the better run onto the first back straight, or the second straight of the track. Tucked into the slipstream. Already pulling out of it, taking the outside line into free. And successfully gets this done. It looks like no wide, but on the throttle. Carlson a little bit better. Big battling here between the Swede and Dutchman. Not quite close enough to go forward into 4th. Not good enough on the throttle there from Van Liebenstein out of 3, but they will probably maintain some sort of battle here if Van Diemenstein doesn't manage to pull through. Van Diemenstein was way higher up early on in this race. Do you remember Parker again causing a little bit of a yellow? But Van Diemenstein was further up the running order until he had that mistake. Actually exactly where we are now on the track. Not the greatest exit there from Carlson, having to lift there from Van Diemenstein to avoid the contact. Carlson must have had a horrendous exit. Super close through the two final corners. Van Diemenstein again with the much better exit there. Then will be on into turn 1. Already have a little bit of overlap. Carlson trying to squeeze Van Diemenstein as far out as he possibly can. Van Diemenstein on the outside, side by side through 1. Van Diemenstein seemed to have got it done. But now it's the question for Carlson. If he stays behind, can he strike back already into turn 3? Or will he have to wait for 4? Maybe he does look 4 into 3. On the brakes, Van Diemenstein have this one. Does look to be better on the acceleration as well. With Barkey behind. Remember, Barkey was the driver that got held up a little bit by Dickman in the pits when Dickman had that big damage coming into the pits and therefore moved a little bit slower. So Dickman could potentially get involved in this freeway battle. Van Diemenstein not with the best of fourth corner there. This have turned out to be a freeway battle all of a sudden. Van Diemenstein, Carlson and Barkey all in this one. Van Diemenstein does look like he is putting a little bit of a gap, and especially in the final corner he seems to be quite a bit stronger than Carlson the last couple of laps. So he will need to get a good run there. But Carlson immediately under pressure once again, this time from Barkey. Haven't seen any drive-throughs yet this race. A little bit surprising to me, to be honest, but maybe the drivers are just good enough to avoid them. Carlson does have the upper hand with getting slipstream forward. Does have a helping hand from Diemenstein getting the slipstream at the minute. And Barkey there with a little bit of a bad turn 1. So Carlson will be safe at least this time out. On the hood of Barkey's car with the front lights lighting up the track ahead of him, showing the way. It would be horrendous if they didn't, to be honest. If you mount them on the side of the car, I don't think they would be as helping or as helpful, but it would be a spectacle to watch. Van Diemenstein actually sticking, Carlson actually sticking with Van Diemenstein still. After Van Diemenstein got further ahead again, Parker causing some yellows. Not the best day in the office from the British driver, Drift King, not showing the drifting skills so far this race. Dickman also involved in that. It was, I think they've been in a battle for position maybe, as Dickman have dropped behind Parker now. Now it looks like that Van Diemenstein have made the gap. If he can move one across the line, yeah, gap is forming up to 0.7. Same goes for the Cardinal Vargas in front that have pulled out again to 3 seconds, so that might be done and dusted as well, if no big mistakes happen from Cardinal. But that 0.7 doesn't look like to maintain. Here's a little bit of a replay. This is what happened to Parker. Into turn 1 he goes. Everything looks fine so far, and then he just loses, and Dickman have just lost it just beforehand. Oh, a solo instant from both drivers maybe. Not a good day on behind the wheel of that McLaren, nor behind the Lamborghini of Dickman, but they are still going, and we have to applaud them for the spirit of this race. Or spirit of racing, the racing spirits. The gap seems to be quite similar between Van Diemenstein, Carlson and Barkey at this point. It have settled down quite a bit. between the three of them. Garcia still haven't managed to find a way through Sarni. He might just be locked into that forever 9th position. The Spaniard in the Mode 11 car, so that'd be the Spaniard in the Dutch car, or Dutch team, German car. Running through 3. But again, it's just maybe Garcia at this point have stretched the weapons, put it back into the sword holder. If he had a sword, if it's a gun, then obviously a gun canister or holster or whatever you put on the side. Jumped off the horse and just choosing maybe to stay at a safer position just behind instead of pushing for the glory. I think he will go for it if he gets a chance. Don't get me wrong, but no reason to risk the race with 12 minutes to go. I'm just trying to look if something interesting is happening anywhere else on the track. At the minute doesn't look like that's this battle and the one that we looked quite a bit at before between Garcia, Carlson and Baki. Where Carlson is sticking with von Liebenstein quite nicely up there. Have closed a little bit from the 0.7 down to the 0.5. And he is in a pretty good towing position. If we can get a super good turn 3, then he could potentially be on for it into 4. Gets close behind, gets the wider line to get the acceleration. Did look very nicely, this one. This could lead to an attacking move from Carlson, stuck into the slipstream, but that Honda just looks so quick in a straight line. Must be annoying to chase down that VTEC power. Other forms of techs available. But no, not quite for Carlson. After von Liebenstein got that move done, he is under pressure, but not so severely that it impacts his driving or von Liebenstein having to go defensive yet to maintain from Carlson behind. On board with the Swede. Running a little bit wide there through the final corner this time. Again, a little bit wide. Not getting the perfect line, it looks like. Not wide, but not the best of lines through, it looked like. Could have maybe kept it a little bit tighter, turning just a little bit later. There's quite a bit of a dip there in the final corner here at the Red Bull Ring. That if you actually get it all the way into the curb, then will sort of like give you quite a lot of extra rotation, because there's sort of like this dip on the inside that will help push the car around into the corner. Sort of works as a very local, very steep camber, or banking almost, as we see on ovals and Zandvoort. But no, it is quite status quo between the two drivers. Van Millis seems to have caught up to Ottelman further down. Ottelman have had a spin not that long ago, and that might be the reason why they are so close on track. But yeah, and they're hot tires and overheated tires maybe from Ottelman. As Van Millis will have to show why he is such a highly regarded driver, though mostly in endurance, not known for on-track battling and making these big overtaking moves, but a super consistent driver. Can he get it done on Ottelman, who might be the exact opposite, very known for being a super sprint racer? I haven't seen him in endurance, don't seem to remember him on track there at all. But a very good sprint racer, and very good in wheel-to-wheel battling is Ottelman. haven't spoken that much about the wind so far this race. 2 kilometer wind. It does have a little bit of an impact on the cars. It's the wind is not that heavy that it will be super impactful on them, but if you know how to drive into the wind and how it affects the cars, if you have a good feeling of how that works, then you could take a little bit of advantage of it. Because your braking points will move ever so slightly with the wind. Obviously, when you have the headwind, then you will be held a little bit slowing down into the corners. Garcia in 9th, super close now to Sayani. A little bit of a smoke screen up ahead. They do have some traffic that they will have to clear shortly. That could be Garcia's chance. I think the traffic will just move nicely out of the way for them, maybe. No, haven't done yet on the start-finish straight. This could be an option down the second straight. Garcia in a good position to get the run. That's one of the Lambos ahead there. That's either, that could be Digmet or Ungulelu. I need to learn how to pronounce names soon. Sayani goes through Garcia as well. As the Lambo just runs himself wide to leave the room. But no changes in positions this time around with traffic. They might have a little bit of extra traffic later on. Carlson still giving this big chase on von Diebenstein. Von Diebenstein might have been affected of one of the main things. When you're stuck behind another driver for too long, then you get into their rhythm and it's hard to find your own again after. And that might be why Carlson have been able to stick with him. It could also be, once again, one of the things that we talked about just before the race or early on in the race, that big slipstream. If you can't break the gap, then that will be difficult. If you're not super quick, or a lot quicker than the driver behind you, then it is so difficult to get out that slipstream range. And on a track like this, short track, a lot of straights, that slipstream helps you quite a bit in staying with the drivers up ahead. But now almost a second for von Liebenstein. This could be done and dusted at this point. Barkey have also dropped enough behind that he's out of direct battle. So now it's up to Garcia to give us this late race entertainment. Big traffic around them, to be honest. So that might play into this one. Sayani clearing a car now. Garcia will try to come with him through before the next braking zone. Succeeds in that and got it done a lot smoother than Sayani. I've been in this situation many times before, sitting in a car having to lap back markers in the final couple of laps while you are in battle for position. And that is so tricky. Odelman in the wall. Odelman in the wall, it looks like, at least into the grass. That's out of one, it looked like. But definitely not optimum from him. It is Frans van der Linden. They're actually also in a battle, the two back markers that they had to overtake there. Gululu and Iron van der Linden, not Frans. It's Iron, of course it is. Of course it's Iron, Frans. They should just stop having similar last names. There was also Peter van der Linden at some point, I do remember. So there were 3 of those guys. Garcia still on Sayani. That's I think Misha Maley's getting up there, or is it Steve Parker? It's definitely one of the McLarens. I think that's Parker's McLaren. Does look like Misha would have red names and numbers in the wind screen, or in the wind on the display in the wind screen. Yeah, in the windscreen. Yes, that's the word that I was looking for and found and forgot multiple times because of reasons. 3 minutes to go. when the race leader crosses the line, then will be 2 more laps. And he is in the train behind these guys, maybe. The 104 car, where's it? Let's see what happened. This will be Ottoman in turn 1. The usual wide approach goes in and lose it even before the curb there. We have seen this. I did hit the wall. We have seen this for a few drivers so far this race, and it can truly happen to anyone. Have to be a tricky corner, and you are running such low downforce configurations of the cars, and as the weight transfers when you go through turn 1, then that car really does get light, and then not a lot of help from the aero. Then it's then it is a little bit tricky to go through, and can be. But that means that Van Millis gets up into 19th position. Meanwhile, Martin Koy and Keitunen in battle. Koy looks to the left-hand side of Keitunen, and what will this be? Side-by-side action still going on. Will they go through? Seems to. They got through unscathed. Koy with the better exit. 2 big cars next to each other. Does have a little bit of overspeed, or just enough, but Keitunen will have the inside line for 4. Stays in there. Keeps it on the apex, nicely hooked, and Keitunen does defend position. Super defense there from Keitunen. Just got that one right. Also, one of my favorite liveries this season is that Mustang of Keitunen. We can maybe ask the people in the YouTube chat out there who you think have the best livery of this season. This 10th season here on SSRI. Also a milestone for us here in the community as a whole. But Keitunen and Koy locked into battle. Where is the race leader? It will be he's there. He might actually get another lap in. It will be tight, I think, but could happen. So this might be the penultimate lap, might be the final for these guys. I think it will be very close to whether or not we get a lap or not. If he crosses the line, it'll be with a second or 2 that he will extend the race. The line side will be with about 5 seconds. He comes across now. So this lap and 1 more for these 2 guys, for Martin Koy. Martin Koy to get the move done on Keitunen. And for Keitunen to defend from Martin Koy as well. Meanwhile, Garcia must have made a mistake as well. Not Garcia. Von Liebenstein has here gone behind Carlsen and Barkey also. While we've been focusing on these battles elsewhere on the track. But let's see, can Koy find just that little bit of extra? Nothing of this matters for Koy championship-wise. He is the semi-pro champion no matter what. But it's all a matter of honors. He is up against Keitunen, and next season that's a drive-through also for Von Liebenstein on the final lap. But next season he will be matched against Keitunen championship-wise if they both stay racing with us. So it is a good test of strength. Trying to do so into the final couple of corners. That's a little bit surprising to see. And that also, that 19 car seems to be stopped at a very weird position. 2 more big overtaking opportunities for Koy. It will be either in turn 3 or 4. He does seem to have the overspeed into 3. Meanwhile, the race have finished with the victory there from the Mustang. Also, I think that's the first time we see a Mustang winning this season. Meanwhile, Keitunen does defend first time. Next opportunity around. Also tries both sides, tries to cut underneath. That does Koy, but Keitunen does manage to keep it there. Baldy also securing the Pro Championship. by finishing 4th, also managed to do so by himself with the mathematical secure position. But Koi, one more chance. Will he launch it into the penultimate corner? Doesn't look like it. Left, right. No chance. Caseman goes a little bit wide. This could be into the final corner. Now stays behind, does Koi. And the race is done and dusted. Plus 30 seconds for von Liebenstein as he didn't take the drive-through penalty there by the end. Vale and then Shelikins will be the final driver to finish the race. Wow. Race and a half we had this evening. And what a great race to finish off the season as well. We will be back. Baldy won the championship, yes. Guess who? Out there secured it mathematically as well. Didn't need or couldn't have cared less about finishing positions by the other drivers after securing the positions. Securing 4th in this one. So strong result for him, and congrats to him. Nick Marcus, welcome in the small chat. It is getting a little bit cramped in here, I must say, but yeah, I think there's just enough room for here. What a season you have had so far. Well, not so far, the season is now done, but what a season you had so far. Or what a season you had. Podium, first race podium in the third, and once again, yeah, final race as well. It's just that every other time it seems to be going well for you.
Yeah, it was actually a great season for me in the Ferrari. Well, this race was also great. I think it was the maximum I could get out of it. Because, congrats to, I think it was Cardinale. He was just, had a better pace. But, it was a bit exciting in the beginning because I think Peters was struggling a little bit at some point with T1. So he was sliding, and so he lost some places. So that was a bit of luck for me. I could drive away from him, but was actually the maximum I could do. So really nice race.
Yeah, but it did look like early on that it might have been your qualifying position that actually gave the win away, because the gap opened early on between you and Cardinal. And then it just never seemed to come down again. It stayed very consistent after you made the move on Peters. Must be a little bit frustrating looking at that there was a potential chance that if you could have put it higher up on the grid.
Yeah, true. But after the pit stop, I gained a little bit because the gap was a little bit. But he was able to drive away like a 10th per lap, and I couldn't really make advantage of the back markers in any way. So yeah, he was just faster. But well, good.
Gap did come down by 2 seconds after the pits, and also you did manage to keep within a mathematical chance of the championship all the way to the final round of the season.
Yeah, I don't know actually where I end up, but I probably gained at least one position.
Behind. Yeah, I think you gained. You have definitely overtaken von Liebenstein, so that'd be third. Peters, where did Peters finish in the race?
I think behind me probably.
Definitely behind you.
Yeah.
One behind third. Then you might just have. Then you will be two. Yeah, then you will be third in the championship, 2 points behind Mr. Jordi Peters.
I would have signed for a podium at the beginning of the season, so yeah, really nice.
Yeah, but strong results anyways. Coming back next season, I suppose.
Definitely. I don't know which car, but we'll see. Let's get. We have some summer fun races in the coming weeks and months. So and then the new season will start. So I will definitely be there.
Yeah, I would love to see you in the Jaguar.
The Jaguar.
Yes.
Yeah. Well. There's no BOP, I think, for the Jaguar, right? But I'm not sure if that's going to be a success.
It's perfectly fine. Fine. We'll work something in the background and just give it minus maximum for every race, and it will still be horrendous. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Could be fun. Or maybe the Lexus again. Who knows?
Oh yeah, the return of the Lexus, my all-time favorite car, I must say.
Started out in the Lexus, so it's a little bit like going back in time.
Going full circle. Could also
Yep.
go to LMU and start the Lexus there as well.
Yeah, true.
But speaking of Lexus and Lexi, joining us also in the small shed is getting cramped in here. Semi-pro championship winner Martin Coy, who almost did the clean sweep of winning all the races in the semi-pros, but it just missed out today.
Yeah, today was by far the toughest race for me. I mean, Red Bull Ring doesn't really suit me, and overall pace of especially Gilles Gavioli was super strong today. And like last races, the traffic didn't really work in my favor this race. So yeah, toughest race by far.
Yeah, but even though it was tough race, what a battle you had with Cageman there on the final laps.
Yeah,
That's very, very interesting.
we had a battle in the first part of the race as well. When I still had the pace to follow the front pack, that was good. But the last battle was hard. It threw away basically my possibility to gain on Gilles there. But the fight itself was nice. Was hard. It felt like he was slower in the last two corners, but obviously he then had the raw Mustang pace on the start-finish straight, so it is what it is. Was a good race.
The last two corners, not the best overtaking opportunities, though it did look like that you almost had it done there, I think on the penultimate lap, coming into the inside there when he made a little bit of a mistake.
Yeah, well, I felt that I was becoming greedy. You know, the standard last lap, I want to get him. But I toned myself down and just settled for the position where it was, since it didn't want to blow his race as well. But it was a fair fight.
It at least looked very nice. If you're coming back next season, then Cageman might be one of the drivers that you'll be challenging championship position-wise. As you'll most likely both be pro drivers.
Yeah, I think I'm ready for that as well. Unfortunately, I will have to miss out on the next season because of work. So I won't be here for the most of the rest of the year. So whenever I have time, I will pop in. I will ditch away my beloved Beamer, and I will either go back to the Merc, or just like Nick, move to the Lexus, because I've just found out that car, and oh, that's a thing, man.
That is my all-time favorite counter drive in this game. Quite
so yeah, it's
driving-wise, and good sounds in it as well. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the in-car sound is good, but coming from the Beamer and moving to a Lexus, steering feedback-wise is like you're running the Lexus on ice for the first few laps because it's so much lighter. But it also gives you the possibility to save the car from worse scenarios compared to the Beamer, and that's what I like about it. So yeah, unfortunately not the next season for me, but whenever I'm around, I will try to pop up and be a contender in the field.
We will be looking forward to that with much joy. Most definitely, especially if you come in the Lexus, then we will be very, very happy about it. That's the car that we always like to see on track. Although the Jaguar as well would be very, very nice.
Jags, yeah, Jags ain't my car.
Jag. It's a Jag. Oh, well, it would be rather cool to see around. We are trying to persuade Nick into the Jag, of course, because who doesn't want to see a Jag?
Yeah, well, it's right steering, right?
No, it's still left hand. It's still left hand.
It's only the Bentley that is right then. Well,
yes.
It's not my car, so it's not gonna happen.
We'll see. We'll figure something out and get you into that Jag. One way or another, we will figure it out.
Porsche Cup I would be available for, but
would be lovely.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yes. Nevertheless, any final words from you two on the season that have just passed?
No, just that it's been a blast, and yeah, for every driver involved, thanks for the season. And unfortunately, not for me, but good luck in the next season.
Yes, same here actually. Thanks to all the drivers, and it was a great season. And before I forget, thanks to Chris, and you for all the great broadcasts you did this season. It's always a pleasure to watch them back, and I assume it's other people do that. Other people do that too. So yeah, really great. Thanks a lot.
And those were the words of the season. There's only one thing to say. Until next time, thank you for watching, and we'll see you then. Bye bye. And then we have to do a good exit song this time. I think we'll do What Can I Say Except You're Welcome for driving the races with us. You could just finish the stream, Chris. What can I say except you're welcome? You're welcome driving here with us.